When I say I was unprepared for the creation of this video, I genuinely mean that. I don't think any amount of prep time or Chick-fil-A milkshakes can equip me with the mental fortitude to undergo the deep dive of any particular tenure for LSU. But the fact that just had to be this coach in particular really sets the stage for what's going to be an unforgettable, unlocked memory for those who walk into a circus of this magnitude. And there aren't many clowns that walk the earth with squeakier shoes than the likes of Brian Kelly. He serves as one of the icons of modern-day college football, but unlike many others, he serves this purpose for all the wrong reasons. BK is one of the most controversial figures in the world of sports. Some would attest this to his win-or-go-home attitude that only results in going home. Others would point to his post-game interviews where he pouts like a 5-year-old and deflects all blame to his coordinators and players. And many would point out his alleged role in the passing of student videographer Declan Sullivan. It's not my job to tell you whether or not to believe that he had any sort of wrongdoing here. After all, I'm no lawyer. I'm just some moron on the internet with subpar editing skills and an unhealthy obsession with the quintessential quintuplets. Nonetheless, Brian Kelly has cemented himself into the world of college football not because of his success or lack thereof, but rather that from the perspective of most, he's a complete and total asshat. No evidence backs this up further than his 4-year-long tenure with the LSU Tigers. But in order to grasp what led to the Tiger droppings level reputation he's found himself in today, we have to rewind the time machine to a much longer tenure that set the stage for the Cajun Calamity on display. And before that, we have to go back to the time long before BK made a name for himself. Starting his coaching career as a softball coach all the way at Assumption College in 1983, Kelly would slowly but surely climb the ropes to becoming a college football head coach. He got his wish in 1991 with Division II Grand Valley State. Under his tutelage, the Lakers would go on to win quite a bit. But Kelly didn't get the attention he was looking for from the upper leagues until he won GVSU back-to-back D2 championships. That carved a path for Central Michigan to call him up and give him the job. He would later serve a few years with Cincinnati, and then of course the one we've been waiting for, he'd replace Charlie Weiss as the head coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. As you know with Notre Dame, they have a gift that most programs don't, which is their Declaration of Independence. We want the same rights the conference has, but with hand-picked schedules, and we'll cry if we don't get our way. While it was quite the struggle at times, BK was still able to get the Irish out of the rut of irrelevance. They won more than 7 games a year, which was quite the upgrade all things considered. Not only that, but because of their schedules, or lack thereof, Kelly was sometimes able to sneak the Irish into some very prestigious games. Multiple New Year's Six Bowls, playoff games, and even a BCS National Championship. Hell of a feat most coaches cannot hope to grasp. However, there was one great big elephant in the room that took up every square inch every time they made a big one. Brian Kelly is the Nick Saban of James Franklin's. Granted, it's hard to choke the big games and you don't show up for them at all. The Irish were blasted beyond recognition every time they went up against a real contender. Eventually, it just became a meme. Every season started and ended the same way. Beat up service academies, fight against a real team, and then get season 1 invincible to the grave. Most coaches would be willing to learn from their mistakes and adapt for the next time, but BK is not most coaches.
What did you think of your team's ability to withstand Florida State's impressive comeback?
I'm in favor of execution. Maybe our entire team needs to be executed after tonight.
The art of deflection. Every time Notre Dame loses a football game, it's always someone else's fault. Bad offense, the coordinator. Bad defense, also the coordinator. Turnover on downs, the quarterback. 50 yards rushing all game, the backs coach. 100 points allowed, the refs. He gets fired, it's the administration's fault. It's a continuous, everlasting cycle that preserves itself to this day. Asking him to take accountability is like asking Jeff Sims to not throw an interception. It's his kryptonite, and it followed him like his shadow once he finally had enough of touchdown Jesus. Luckily for him, his problems were nothing compared to what was going on at his next destination. 2 years before Kelly's interest peaked, the LSU Tigers were at their peak. In the year of 2019, LSU was on the radar to be a playoff contender at best. Nobody on the planet or any alien in space could have anticipated what actually happened. LSU reached the stage of college football immortality and beyond by becoming one of the undisputed greatest teams in college football history. A 15-0 record, a school record of 726 points scored, almost 7,000 yards of offense, a Heisman Trophy handed to transfer quarterback Joe Burrow, who mind you broke 5 NCAA records in his 2019 season, a 1,000-yard rusher in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 1,000-yard receivers in Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, wins over 7 top 10 teams, an SEC title, and of course, a national title. Coach of the Year recipient Ed Orgeron put LSU at the mountaintop of their program with this season, but alas, with its peak comes the eventual downfall. A whopping majority of their greatest talents, plus both coordinators, went on to bigger individual jobs, leaving Coach O to reload to the best of his ability. So how long were they on top after their unbelievable championship run? They weren't. Like waking up on top of a lit nuclear warhead, Coach O found out immediately that the spark was gone. Orgeron's hire of Bo Pelini turned the defense from a juggernaut of the nation to all 4 elements of shit overnight. Being as this overturn was during the COVID year, it caused everything to go downhill very fast. Orgeron's choice for the next quarterback to lead them, Miles Brennan, despite his talent, never even got to show it. The injury bug quite literally evaporated his career. He played a total of 3 games before it ended. This, plus the opt-outs, plus the inconsistencies, plus the unrealistic expectations, led to even greater letdowns the following year. LSU got submerged by Dorian Thompson-Robinson in the Rose Bowl in the first game and never recovered. Orgeron was already in hot water because allegations came out in regards to him ignoring SA back in 2017. This involved Darius Guice getting non-consensually freaky with a 70-year-old woman? What the fuck? That's probably the only thing more disturbing than the results of the 2021 season. LSU athletic director Scott Woodward didn't wait until halfway through the season to announce that there was a leadership change coming after the regular season finale against Texas A&M. The only downside for the Tiger Man was that he wasn't talking about himself. If nothing else, Coach O got to finish his career like most would, by taking down 8-4 Jimbo Fisher in a college football classic. Naturally, this would lead to a very short 2-day coaching search, for Woodward was locked in on the next stage of LSU football.
Boo, you stink!
Boy, it's that sign right there that really makes you understand that you weren't as hungry as you thought you were. But you know what I am hungry for? Winning. And thankfully, there's an app like that you can access from your phone or your computer or anywhere you are. And that is our sponsor, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 sports picks app, and they made it even better. Most people know that you can make player picks by choosing more or less on individual player stats. Whether it's 3-pointers, rebounds, assists, goals, or any other stat across a wide variety of sports, it's incredibly easy to build a lineup. But if you're someone who'd rather pick teams instead of individual players, PrizePicks has you covered there too. You can now pick the winner, the spread, or the total on tons of different sports events, giving you even more ways to play. I've been checking out the MLB, so I decided to build a lineup around those matches. It definitely adds another layer of excitement when you're already invested in these games. You don't even have to know what you're doing. You can fool around with esports and pray that luck be on your side. Not exactly the most authentic move, but that's part of the excitement. PrizePicks is available in over 40 states, including California, Texas, and Florida, so there's a good chance you can join in too. And starting today, there's a brand new offer for new users. Play your first $5 lineup and get $150 in lineups. Just download the PrizePicks app and use promo code HMA to get started. Thanks again to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's video, and as always, make sure to play responsibly. And now it's my responsibility to order some better dadgum food. LSU Coach 33 is here. With a hefty 10-year, $95 million contract, we can only hope it goes in your favor. When asked about what enticed him to travel down to the bayou, he stated, no joke, he wanted to be at a place where he has a chance to win national championships. There's some major irony presented from that comment, and they will be presented in due time. I'm sure this has nothing to do with the contract 4 times what he was earning with Notre Dame. BK is a man of principle and truth. Just look at how he introduced himself to Tiger Nation.
It's a great night to be a Tiger. I'm here with my family, and we are so excited to be in the great state of Louisiana, but more importantly, to be with you great fans.
Oh, Lord, what have you all done? If his tenure here at this program is half as cringe as that speech was, y'all are gonna stay in the shitter for quite a long time. But no, wait, he'd one-up that in record time. Right?
I can't make you. What have you done?
BK's brand new Cajun debut begins with adversity most Power 5 teams aren't used to facing to open up a college football season. Another Power 5 opponent. Florida State had likewise been going through their own struggles under Mike Norvell, as highlighted by their previous records under him, and they were looking for any kind of light at the end of the tunnel. Kelly managed to steal an individual from Arizona State in the dark of the night over the offseason by the name of Jaden Daniels. His dual threat abilities are perfect for when it's time to blame someone when he calls a QB draw on 4th and 5. On paper, the Tigers were by far the more talented team, but a rocket launcher against a wagon isn't any good when the rocket launcher is pointed in the wrong daggum direction. LSU kept blowing themselves up. Why? Because you have Brian Kelly. The play calling was weak and overly conservative. The line struggled to give Daniels any help while also letting Jordan Travis run up and down the field on them, and every chance to get any sort of momentum back was reversed by horrendous mistakes, mostly by the special teams, but also Mason Smith, who pulled a Jordan Henderson and took a season-ending injury while celebrating. Even with the talent fee on their side, the Paper Tigers were victims of poor, for lack of a better word, execution. Despite that, no team was better at shitting on their own fans better than Florida State, who took a guaranteed chance to win and pissed all over it through a late-game fumble at the 1-yard line, giving LSU one last chance to SEC their way to victory. Daniels would drive them down the field all the way up until the final play of the game.
Right here in New Orleans, Jaden Daniels to the end zone.
Jaray Jenkins says the show must go on. Chaos overtime in the first game at your new program will set the precedent of what will come under Clutch Time BK. Of course, unless you reverse that momentum through a horrendous mistake. And just like that, BK was quicker than anybody to find out how quickly LSU fans wanted him fired. I bet they wish that's how it went. However, something else happened. Because if I had a quarter for every time I saw a preseason hyped up SEC team fall flat on their face against Florida State and then manage to come out of it alive, I'd have 2 quarters, almost enough to buy Clemson's transfer portal budget. Somehow, BK returned. He was able to recover from the Week 1 loss and rally a pretty decent Year 1 for LSU. Not to say there weren't rough patches like getting belted by... Wait. Does that say Tennessee? What? Where the f*** did that go? But even with Vol Nation's successful Neyland South campaign and inability of BK to not make himself look like a total jackass in the process, he promptly destroyed the SEC West from the inside out. They manhandled a top 10 Ole Miss team coached under Lane Kiffin, and in the game that decided who's going up to Atlanta for the SEC title, the Tigers gave Saban's Alabama all they wanted to and more under the lights of Baton Rouge. The timing of playing at night was truly immaculate, because it put a fire under everyone's asses, and gave BK a shred of confidence in his team, one that showed its face in chaos overtime against the Gumps, where he promptly did this.
Daniels for the win. Caught. It's good. LSU does it. Mason Taylor.
Boy, if he dropped that, the tenure of BK is far different. However, the timeline we're in is one where LSU got a marquee moment under Year 1 of BK. This win gave fans all the optimism they could ever ask for a brighter future, and one-day euphoria for finally getting one over Bama. It also propelled LSU to the championship for the SEC against the likes of Kirby Mouse's Bulldogs, who just so happened to clinch the East Division. Don't prematurely fold like Florida did 2 years ago prior against a much shittier conference opponent.
The Aggies want more. And here he goes for it and gets it. A-chain again.
Jimbo Daggum Fisher. Connor Walgreens and Jimbo Daggum Fisher. But that's okay because you guys clinched a spot anyway. We're saving our special teams competence for that game, damn it.
High snap. They got it down and it's blocked. Georgia stuffs it. And now here comes the run back. If this stands, it's going to be about a 95-yard touchdown.
Well, if it makes you feel any better about it. The football gods hated everyone this year, especially TCU in January. Propelled by a dominating victory in the Citrus Bowl to end the season at the bare minimum, BK's next team comes in seemingly far stronger than the last. Jaden Daniels had more weapons and a whole offseason of training to prepare for what was going to be one of the best offenses LSU has had to this day. Logan Diggs from the former BK pipeline was an unexpected but very effective addition to an almost unstoppable offense. They were by far the best one of the 2023 season and propelled Daniels all the way to the next great LSU Heisman legend. But if their offense was this amazing on the field, how was it that they fell short of expectations? Other than the obvious answer being, you have Brian Kelly, the factual answer came in the form of the Lincoln Riley tactic, which as you'd expect, failed miserably. The Paper Tiger defense went like their name I just made up and perished over the offseason. Kelly admitted there was trouble with the backfield during media days, but couldn't prepare for the collapse at hand. The Matt House defensive game plan consisted of one move.
Nothing.
And as fate would have it, LSU's only competent man on the squad would face demise because of their incompetence. The most significant iron wall in the defensive front, Harold Perkins, would be switched from his usual linebacker formation up to the defensive line. He lost his talent overnight and didn't get it back all season. The one consistent back in Zy Alexander would also get his position switched to the injury tent. He joined the other competent back in J.K. Johnson, who didn't even get to play a down for them. Once these changes were cemented, LSU's only postseason hope was a return to the prestigious Citrus Bowl. Despite Daniels' efforts, they weren't enough against the likes of Jordan Travis, Jackson Dart, or Jalen Milroe. This defense wasn't even good enough for top 100 in the FBS. Any SEC program to have a defense this ugly was grounds for a clean sweep. House and his staff were promptly banished to the Shadow Realm following the season, but the damage was unfortunately done season-wise. Daniels and a lot of the offensive weapons would go onwards to the NFL. Kelly would look to Mizzou's Blake Baker to fix the Burger King roast beef sandwich of a defense. I would mention Arby's here, but that's for Arkansas. Perhaps BK's most significant and greatest hire was Corey Raymond, responsible for training DBs like Patrick Peterson, Derek Stingley Jr., and Tyrann Mathieu. Unfortunately, Mike Denbrock would return to the Irish, so some changes had to be made there as well. Moreover, with this Heisman legend gone to the upper leagues as well, LSU and Kelly would change their offense to better surround up-and-coming quarterback Garrett Nussmeier. He lacked the run, but he could make that up with a stronger pocket presence. With all this, I don't see how it could go wrong again next season in one game. Two teams in a very similar situation squared off in a Las Vegas neutral site game that would determine who would get the jump start needed for conference play. Two coaches known for terrible defenses led the charge, and were both starting quarterbacks to replace their Heisman ones. Entering 13th in the preseason, BK wanted to prove that this team was the one that's built differently. The Nuss experiment was trending nicely as shown against the Lincoln Riley defense, like every other quarterback in history. However, Miller Moss was having himself an elite day on the opposing side as well. The defense showed competence in the red zone, which was a welcome surprise, but you'd expect Nuss, backed up by elite wide receiver Kyron Lacey, to do something with that momentum. But you forget, you have Brian Kelly. Horrid red zone play calling squandered a majority of LSU's drives, and they had all the chances in the world to put the condoms away. That plus 100 penalty yards kept USC in the game through their duration. USC would eventually retake the lead on the Paper Tigers, leaving them at the mercy of Nuss and Lacey. Thankfully, talent paved the way to at least field goal range, and unlike 2 years ago, this one wasn't blocked. Bad choice though, because guess what? You left 2 minutes on the clock for the quarterback who's been gashing your defense all Sunday night. The expected outcome happened soon afterwards. The undisciplined LSU squad proceeded to let Moss carve them up again, and for added measure, forced a targeting call on them because f*** you. Brian Kelly reacted like usual, dazed, confused, and trying to figure out which flavor of ice cream he was going to get after the game. Think about how confused he was after seeing this.
Woody Marks might make it a moot point, and he does! Talk about all the field goals and Woody Marks!
Death by lack of complimentary football. Or at least that's what BK said. Just another example of a big-time collapse against a ranked opponent, another chance for BK to melt down at someone in the press conference.
And we're sitting here again talking about the same things.
Welcome to hell. If the Jerry DiNardo era taught these fans anything, this is a fate they've become all the more used to. And would you know, turns out blaming everyone else for your own problems creates no growth for your team as a whole. Notre Dame learned that lesson, and now here you are learning the same thing. It led to a season which was just about a carbon copy of the last. Same mistakes, same play calls, same penalties, same lack of variety, same results. The defense was different in the sense that they were able to stop a ghost every now and then, but it wasn't enough to make up for the assortment of other problems that floated around from last year. Jalen Milroe and Alabama quite literally just copy and pasted the same game plan from last year, and it worked even better than the last. I mean, you should know this by now. Any game where LSU had to go and face a dual-threat quarterback was a game where the Bayou man's TV was off 2 hours into the game. They were consistently pushed around by higher quality teams up front. Plus, there was newer problems that surfaced. The O-line was melted by elite D-lines, which led to Nuss becoming tiger bait and throwing unnecessary turnovers. It's what led to him getting disemboweled on the line by Florida and Billy Napier. Their pass rush was about the only thing they had going for them, so a way to reinforce Billy's extension, jackass. Probably the most threatening message all season was from BK himself. He had interest in calling plays. There were some bright areas to come from the season, of course, as Nuss earned the nickname Gunslinger by shredding defenses with over 4,000 passing yards in the season. His return for the 2025 season painted a clear spot for the Heisman ballot if he was able to keep up the momentum from this season. With a continuously building defensive squad, Nuss's return, and a class now much more shaped in Kelly's image, 2025 is the year where LSU returned to the rightful role of dominance in this sport. I think the college football world in bulk received an episode of whiplash following the grand opening of LSU football in 2025. Not because LSU won on the road against a top 5 Clemson team, which as impressive as it seemed, wasn't why people were shocked, but rather that the winning Tigers managed to walk out of an opener with a W. First time in BK's history with LSU. Despite a struggle fest of offense on their part, the defense locked in and manhandled Cade Klubnik and the Clemson offense. For once, it appeared LSU was going to live up to their offseason glazing, because the pressure of being a top 5 team themselves was a massive expectation to live up to. Unfortunately, they'd be tested with that record far quicker than expected, as undefeated conference opponent Ole Miss devolved into an enigma of a team following their starting quarterback's injury. Austin Simmons, who led the charge, did so briefly before an ankle injury took him out for an extended duration. Per the unfortunate circumstance, they'd have to give the rest of their season on the arm of Ferris State's Trinidad Chambliss. Nobody, excluding immediate relatives and any existing Ferris State fans, knew the man by name. This would be known as the day that all changed. The BK defense that looked like its 2019 self 2 weeks ago is now at the mercy of Trinidad and Tobago, who ended the night with almost 400 yards. But that's okay, because BK still has an extremely powerful offense on the other side. Right?
Brian in the back, I know you love these immediate post-game sessions, but what are you seeing with your offense?
Stop. Really? Is that the first question? We won the game 20-10. Try another question.
And what is going on with third down?
It's one game. I don't know what you want from me. What do you want? You want us to win 70-0 against Florida to keep you happy?
No, I think people want to know why you can't run the ball. Quite
We can run the ball. Did you see the last play of the game? That's all you need.
I mean, you guys heard BK right there. The run game's even great. Y'all are just haters. Look at their run performance against Ole Miss.
Are you gonna shut?
Well, shit. I think the only big shocker from this game was that it was as close as it was. Kiffin letting LSU hang around so that they could punch themselves in the face might be the greatest troll job he's done since he got to Ole Miss. And that's really saying something. No way he'd one up that a couple of months later. As for LSU, trolling is about the only way you could describe the rest of the road. The gunslinger was now a fart pooper because that's what the rest of his games turned into. Once a Heisman favorite was now reduced to an optional offensive effort of which he got benched because of. It's one of the most shocking downfalls of any quarterback over the course of one season, partly due to being consistently blamed from BK. But that's not a shock. BK spent the season blaming everyone else for every problem the team had. The offense was just as much of a train wreck as the defense was 2 years ago. Not even a top 100 unit in total offense tells you everything you need to know. On top of the offense being complete Mike the Tiger Nuggets, the same issues with penalties, bad red zone play calls, and of course turnovers followed LSU all the way through the season. The pressure of BK spiked to the max following a loss to Vandy, where their entire offense got outplayed by Diego Pavia. It's one game, he said. Wait, never mind, it's 2 games. There wasn't much more that Tiger Nation could take before they unanimously decided that enough was enough, and that feeling would arrive the following week. Are we sure this is the week it collapses? LSU's going toe-to-toe with Texas A&M. Nuss and his line are holding their own against Jay Bateman's pass rush, and they have the home field, arguably the most hostile home field, and LSU has a halftime lead going into the second half. All they have to do is not revert to their earlier selves, and they're still alive for the college football playoffs. But alas, one constant remains with LSU, which has remained the constant for the last 3 seasons as well. You do indeed have Brian Kelly.
From the pocket, Reed scrambling and scoring. Concepcion backed up all the way to the 23 and breaks free. Look out. KC Concepcion still running. They're not going to catch him. KC Concepcion. Concepcion had the ankle check. Morrow.
By Simpson.
Cut back, spinning and scoring. Jamarian Morrow joins the party.
And there we go. Every disaster BK endured over his tenure came back in one fell swoop. Marcel Reed realized that if he started running the football, it was all over for LSU, and he took advantage of that. Texas A&M outscored LSU 35-7 in the second half. What stung the most was the hostile takeover of Tiger Stadium. The Aggies quite literally made it theirs and did their cultist ritual whilst your team watched from the sidelines, you watched from the couch, and BK didn't watch at all because that damn strawberry ice cream's gotta be really good. Immediately following the game, he was locked out of the athletic building, and while it was supposedly a fingerprint accident, it wouldn't matter anyway, because it was more of a premonition. Would you be surprised if I told you the initial firing in itself was a giant shit show too? Kelly was canned after the loss to Texas A&M, of which BK stewed in it for a few weeks before coming to a realization. He was never formally fired, so he said. The Tiger administration was trying to cut corners by making a bargain with BK. The original buyout was over $50 million over 5 years, and they were trying to chop that number in half. Plus, they never formally terminated him as they were looking for cause. Whether or not you believe the lawsuit Kelly formally responded to this with, there must have been some legitimacy to it because they eventually settled on paying the full buyout anyway later down the line. That's the first time BK blamed something else and it turned out in his way. Publicly trying to shaft your former coach did no good for Scott Woodward and company, as he led one of the most goofy coaching searches in modern day college football, which led him to waltz off into the sunset a couple of days after BK's termination. LSU ought to be thankful they had a foundation of liquid green, because if they didn't, they'd probably still be relying on their state governor to bail them out of their own incompetence instead of taking incompetence from another program. That incompetence, of course, being Lane Kiffin. Throwing out a dick for a dickhead is a move for sure. Too bad the balls have been missing since 2019. To this day, Brian Kelly continues to take nothing from his experiences at LSU. He couldn't find a new coaching job no matter how hard he searched for it. What do you think he pinned the blame on for that? Of course, his former program. Having zero accountability for any of your actions has predominantly led to the situation you're in now. You had a dream job laid out for you in the form of a talent pool richer than most could imagine. That came with a lot of pressure, sure, but it came with tons of talent. Talent equal to what Ohio State or Georgia has. But the difference is that those men on the sidelines knew how to make a change. To admit they were far from perfect. To recognize when they were wrong. That concept made them far stronger in the long run. Now they've got natties, real hardware. All you ever did was make yourself out to be a cataclysmic clown. One that spoke about using AI to do the job for him since he got fired for trying to do it himself. And then acted surprised the only job he could get was internship recruiting advisories for G6 programs. He managed to further burn down the reputation of one of the strongest programs in the Southeast on his way out the door. But why are we surprised? It's the message that's been spread through the whole duration of this video. You are Brian Kelly. Your entire lifetime as coach is built off of clownery, controversy, and stubbornness that surpasses any other coach I've covered combined. Screaming at players on the sideline, openly shitting on your own staff to take blame away from yourself, spurging up fake accents to pretend that you're one of them, crashing out at reporters for asking questions you don't want to answer, and this doesn't include the way that he left Cincy and Notre Dame in the dust, nor does it include the supposedly heinous shit you did with Greg Brooks Jr., who underwent emergency surgery while under BK's roster at LSU, and according to his father, didn't even bother to call. It's all hearsay, but who's to say this isn't real testimony? Unbelievable. Being an asshole for college football coaches is as easy as cutting through cake with a hot knife. It comes natural to them. Being an asshole is one thing. Most college football personalities who are assholes are at least truthful and honest assholes. Assholes who contradict themselves at every turn are the ones who make the college football world unite against them. And we've seen enough of that from Kelly to know that he fits this jurisdiction pretty well. When it comes to his employment, thankfully for him, CBS was kind enough to hand him a job as a color commentator for the Mountain West, whose fan bases I suddenly feel a lot worse for. If it makes the situation for BK any better, the man had at least some knowledge of how to coach. He wouldn't have gotten this far by being the guy he is and not being a good coach. In fact, 90% don't make it as far as he did. In spite of his asshat attitude, it's going to be odd not to see him on the sideline in any capacity anymore. Based on BK's sideline reactions, he probably thinks he's still there. I'm sure they'll have a dance floor for you at your retirement home.
That football team just worked their tail off to get an SEC win, and you want to know what's wrong. You know what? You're spoiled. You're spoiled. This team is 17-1 at night. 17-1. Give them some respect. How about that? Give them some respect instead of micro-analyzing every little thing. This is ridiculous. For a group of seasoned reporters, that kind of question is so out of line.
The last thing you'd want in your Burger King burger is someone's foot fungus, but as it turns out,
Our entire team needs to be executed.